I'm actually so excited to be doing another book video because I don't know if you can tell, but like I'm very book obsessed right now. So I wanted to do another book series and just give you guys some more recommendations. I think it's the easiest when you're able to put like themes to these kind of videos. So today's theme, as you can see in the title, is books that changed my life. So I have 9 books here that really changed me in some way, mostly the way I think about things, but also my understanding of myself, what I want, my goals, my priorities. All of these things taught me something either about my life, myself, about my relationships, whatever it may be. And I think if you are somebody who does read self-help books or, you know, just like non-fiction books that are written to like help you in some way, I think these are really, really great ones to start with because these are the books that I think every single person should read at some point in their lives because it is, yeah, they're just like great. They tackled so many different topics and covered so many parts of my life, and I just feel like it really made a really big difference in my life. So I'm gonna go through these one by one and explain why I loved it, how it changed me, what it made me think, and hopefully give you guys some ideas of some new books to read. Okay, we'll start with the first one. Nice short book. This is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. This is like a stoicism book. This is written in the way that a lot of these type of stoicism books are written. They give you these kind of like historical examples of the overall idea, and he quotes Marcus Aurelius in this book, and the idea is, and I quote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is great for people who are feeling stuck in their lives, feeling really held back or unsure of what they are supposed to be doing, or maybe you're going through just a period of your life where you feel like everything is hard and everything just keeps like standing in your way. And he talks about changing that mindset to looking at the obstacle as the way forward. I think this is a really easy, great read for everybody because I think all of us goes through different scenarios and situations in our lives where we think to ourselves like, this is so unfortunate, I just feel stuck and I don't know how to move forward from this. And he kind of covers like different aspects of your life, like work, relationships, etc., and talks about how you can kind of reframe your mindset to see your obstacles as an opportunity to move forward. I don't think his writing is absolutely for everyone. I can definitely see myself not enjoying this book as much if I were a lot younger, like in my teens, but I kind of just consume books for, especially self-help books, for their content now and try not to focus so much on the writing style, but it is very concise, it's super small and short, and it's an easy one to get through. Next, I have 2 books that I feel like you can read one or the other. The first one is The Power of Habit, and the second one is Atomic Habits. Power Habit is by Charles Duhigg, Atomic Habits is by James Clear. I feel like Atomic Habits is a lot more popular of a book, but The Power of Habit is actually what I read first. They both go into the scientific kind of definition of how to build a habit. They both also take this angle that in order to build a habit, you have to really start small, but I think The Power of Habit dives into it and breaks it down a little bit better. James Clear has also created like worksheets and workbooks. He has a newsletter. He has a lot of like these additional resources for you to use if you're really trying to build a habit. And I really love the way he wrote about habits. He just made it feel so achievable, which is what you need to do with your habits, with anything that you're trying to kind of build a routine for, because that is going to be the easiest way for you to train your brain to continue to do this thing. I think this section really sums it up well, but essentially he says that building habits is a simple 2-step process. 1, decide the type of person that you want to be, and 2, prove it to yourself with small wins. This is actually something that I am looking to reread after I finish the book that I'm currently reading, because I'm going through a bit of a slump in my life right now where I kind of keep beating myself up for not being able to accomplish the things that I told myself I would accomplish. And I think I need to really reel it back because life has changed from 2 years ago where I set myself this like routine that I want to follow. Yeah, I need to reel it back and really break it down again and just celebrate the small wins and just give myself small, achievable actions, tasks, goals every day instead of trying to just jump back into doing this routine that is essentially impossible for the timing of my life right now. So I think that if you are in this period where you're really trying to design your life right now, this book is going to teach you how to do that in the simplest way and in a very, very achievable way, which I think is really important when you read books like these. The next book is quite different from the ones that I talked about. This one is called The Body Is Not an Apology, and it's by Sonia Renee Taylor. This book was definitely written for women, but I think that if you are a guy who suffers from kind of body image issues, this is going to help you as well. Essentially, she talks about this theory of invoking more radical self-love in your life, and not only is this going to see yourself in a better light, but it's going to be able to help you heal from wounds that may have been caused by trauma in your past. She talks a lot about reconnecting with kind of our child self, or she calls it the radical origins of our minds and bodies, and tries to celebrate ourselves, but also the idea that we as a human race, or as women or as men or whatever, we're a collective group. I think definitely it's one of those mindsets or theories that if everybody saw everybody as a collective, as kind of all part of one, rather than each man for themselves, that the world would be a better place, especially when it comes to judging people's sex, gender, race, body types, all of that. It also does have a lot of little actionable things for you to practice if you are looking to improve your image of your body. And it also includes these little unapologetic inquiries all throughout the book, depending on the different chapters, that I think are great journal prompts, but also just prompts for you to think about. I think everybody suffers from some mild form of body dysmorphia or just body image issues, especially in today's day and age. So I do think that this is a must read, just because it is a great way to think about loving your body. Permission to Feel. This was a game changer for me, probably one of my absolute favorites. It's by Mark Brackett, but essentially he tries to teach you about emotional intelligence. This book, 100%, I think every single human being needs to read. Mark Brackett is actually the founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and he's essentially developed this plan or program for people to be able to understand their own emotions better, and in turn kind of increase their emotional intelligence and be able to build stronger, deeper relationships in their lives. But I think beyond just building relationships, having a better understanding of your own emotions helps you in every aspect of your life, your work, your relationships, your friendships, just how you engage and communicate with people. The program is called Ruler, and it's been proven to help reduce stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, and just enhance achievements in your life in different areas, whether it's school, work, whatever it is. I think I read this when I was going through a bit of a tough time, and this really kind of gave me a new perspective on vulnerability, how I communicate with the people that I love, but also just how I deal with different emotions, and like an improved way that I can deal with my emotions that isn't lashing out or breaking down. I think this was really well written in the sense that it feels really relatable, but it also is very strategic and tactile, and actionable. And I think with self-help books, that's a really great blend, is when you're reading it and you're like, oh my god, this speaks to me so much, but at the same time he goes through and gives you all these actionable steps that you can actually go ahead and like achieve. Really love this one. 10 out of 10 in my books, and 100% like if you're gonna read any of these books, I would read this one first, just because I feel like it's essential, but also it primes you for a lot of the other books as well. The next one is How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. This one is for all of us who have trauma, and before you go and say, I don't have any trauma, like I don't have any childhood trauma, everyone has trauma, whether you're here on the spectrum or here on the spectrum. And this book really helps you to understand that not all trauma are easily recognizable. There are things that happened in your childhood that caused you trauma without you ever even thinking that it was a negative thing, that it was traumatic, that it was hurtful. I just feel like Dr. Nicole LePera wrote this so well, and just really made it easy to digest and understand this very complicated thing that is trauma. I read this in a period of my life where I felt like I really needed it, because I just started to explore different traumatic experiences in my life and unpacking that. I think this is a great one that goes hand in hand with actual talk therapy, because this kind of gives you the work to do on your own between therapy sessions or just in general. Maybe I wouldn't say everybody should pick this up right now, but I think at some point in your life this is going to be an essential, and yeah, definitely recommend it. The next book is Attached. Attached is one that's all about relationships, and it isn't necessarily just about your relationship with your significant other, your boyfriend, girlfriend. It can be about your family or your friends as well, but it essentially talks about the 3 main attachment styles, which are anxious, avoidant, and secure, and the relations between these different attachment styles. And it really dives into these patterns that different relationship attachment styles have. And I kid you not, this is like one of the first books where I was reading and I was like, you are writing about my life. Like, you are writing about my relationships and about me and about how I am in a relationship. And then I realized when I spoke to my friends about it, we're all like the same. We truly are. When you fit under the anxious category, overall you're fundamentally the same when it comes to how you think and what you think about in relationships. And I think if you're somebody who wonders maybe why your relationships aren't working out, why you keep getting your heart broken, why you keep breaking other people's hearts, or if you're somebody who just wants to understand yourself better, to improve your ability to be a partner, must read. And honestly, I think that couples should read this book together, because I think it's going to help so much when it comes to your communication and kind of the fundamental foundation of your relationship. You can't have a books that changed my life list without talking about Brené Brown. This is by far my favorite book by her. This is Daring Greatly. And this is another book where it talks about creating this meaningful, authentic, joyful, grateful life. Oh my god, this book is so freaking good. It really deep dives into the feelings of shame and vulnerability. So again, it's one of those books that, creating this authentic life is the goal, but then she dials it back, breaks it down, and really tries to solve for certain issues first, set the foundation, lay the concrete, so that you can more easily work towards this more meaningful life. I think the overall theme of this book is talking about vulnerability and shame, and it is going to be a tough one to get through at first, because nobody likes talking about their shame and their guilt and their vulnerability. That is the one aspect of our lives, even people who are very like inquisitive and self-aware and reflective, that's the one part of your life that you really, really don't want to revisit or dig into. And I get it, those feelings are really, really hard, but you have to work through some of those things in order to achieve other things in your life. And I've never ever thought about vulnerability in a more different, more positive way than I have after reading this book. This next book, I'm actually not even finished yet, but look at how many tabs I've already put on it. This is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Famous book, famous author. Oprah talks about him so much. They actually have a podcast together. He's the author of The Power of Now, which is, again, like a very, very, very popular book that talks about what he calls spiritual enlightenment, but honestly, it's really just opening up your brain more and your mind more to accept certain things in your life. But I think it's tough when he writes about these things and calls them spiritual enlightenments or spiritual guides. And even though I fully can admit I've become so much more spiritual and have explored this realm so much more, I feel like if the language was just changed a little bit and this talked almost a little bit more in using scientific language, so many more people would read this. But it doesn't matter. Eckhart Tolle is so popular, and I'm glad this book is so extremely popular, as well as his other book, because this is such a great book when it comes to changing your mindset about yourself and how you think. And what I love about this book is the fact that he talks about the ego, which he defines it as your thoughts. It's a bit hard to explain, but essentially the idea is your essential self actually is separate from you, who is your thoughts. A lot of authors actually talk about this idea that there is a you who is your soul, your essential self, and how that you is being controlled by your thoughts, who is still a version of you, but it's the version of you that has been shaped by your parents, your friends, society, culture, where you live geographically, the rules of that place, laws, bylaws, everything that you've ever encountered in your life, trauma, happiness. Your ego, which is what he calls your thinking self, has just been affected by all of these things and will quite literally make you feel shitty about yourself, talk down to you, shame you into feeling or doing certain things. Most people find it really hard to show up for themselves and be kind to themselves. I definitely suffer from that problem. So I think this is a really great book for helping reframe that. So instead of always letting yourself talk to yourself in such a negative way, if you're able to separate the you that is you and the you that is your thinking self, sometimes it helps to kind of get yourself out of that funk where you are being really, really hard on yourself. Speaking about achievements, this is Getting Things Done by David Allen. I actually discovered this idea, this book, through some productivity YouTubers, but essentially he creates this program or method for you to be able to maximize your productivity and optimize your time, and it's called the GTD system. And the Getting Things Done or GTD system just talks about how you should have all of your tasks, goals, everything that you want to do all in one trustworthy system, because if you kind of try to keep things in your head, write something down here, record something there, those things will constantly stay in your mind because you don't have this single source of the truth system where you know that you can rely on to remember all of the things that you need to do. So he talks about this method, the GTD system, and how you can literally implement it into your life. For me, my Getting Things Done system is done in Notion, and I think a lot of the productivity YouTubers do it on Notion as well, and that really works for me. I put everything in there, so that I know there's no way that I'm gonna forget anything, because as soon as I think of it, it goes into my Notion. Really, really practical, really actionable book. And if you're just feeling like you need a little bit of a productivity jump start, whether you're starting your career, in the middle of your career, or if you're starting school, or you're trying to finish school, whatever, this is really, really great. Okay, I'm finally on my last book, which actually works really well with that, because this is Burnout by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski. This book is written to kind of the women audience, but essentially it defines what burnout is, compares it to what stress is, kind of gives you the details on how you can recognize burnout. And then it talks about completing the stress cycle, which is essentially how you can prevent or help yourself leave this burnout state. And I think there are 5 ways that you can complete the stress cycle. Laughter, affection, it can be self-affection, but it does work better when it's affection with somebody else. A big ol' cry, creative expression, and exercise. So those are kind of the ways that scientifically has shown helps you reduce your stress and leave that kind of like fight or flight mode. Again, like I said, it is kind of written in the voice of a woman for women, but I do think that this is going to help you whether or not you're a woman or a man. So if you can look past the language of this book and how it's written, I think that men should read this as well. What I do is I just read this book and I paraphrase it and send it to my significant other to help him. Okay, that was so long. I always assume that these are not going to be long, but then I want to talk about things so much. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys discovered some new reads to add to your TBR. If you enjoyed this video or this type of video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and then hit the notification bell if you guys want to be notified for my next video. I'm not yet all moved in. I will be in a couple of days, but you're going to be seeing this background quite a bit in the next little while. So yeah. Alright, I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are in the world. If you've read any of these books, or if you think that you have a book that you think I'm gonna love, please leave them in the comments, because I am constantly adding to my TBR. I will actually be filming a TBR video very soon as well, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'll see you in my next video.